Hoy, 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 hi, hi, hoy, hi, hoy, 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 hi, hi, hene mo kise.
Growing up on the rancheria, obviously, I think some of the largest things we've seen is just the season changes. They drag into different times. When I was a young man, obviously, you had the rainy season, which was during the fall. And as we moved into it, it just started to push into the spring. Now even later into the winter months have changed.
Everything is extreme. It's really hot in the summer and it gets cold in the winter. This past winter, we had quite a few snowstorms, and well, we called them winter storms, but it was a lot of rain, a lot of snow, just made things miserable. But everything is extreme, and it's caused by climate change.
This climate problems, climate change affect us. We're tied to the ground, we're tied to the water, we're tied to the birds, we're tied to everything. And of course, it hurts us to see the damage.
Bago. Tule.
Biggest change is the Thule. When I was little, the Thules were it was just a green wall, just a solid wall of Thules, and you could just play in. We used to make Thule trails, and now you can't do that anymore. We'd make Thule boats for fishing, and in the springtime, the young shoots that would come out, you could actually pull them out and eat them.
You know, we've had to, look in other areas when we would have ceremonies, and we've had to travel at least 2.5 hours away just to gather and hold our ceremonies, when before we would just be able to go out into the lake, maybe I would say about 50, 60 feet, and gather all we wanted. And so that is a big impact that it has on us. It's really important for us when you have grown men like myself and my cousins, and we'll drive down to the point, and when we see the little shoots, we get happy like kids, because it's very important to us.
The algae blooms we never had until recently. When the summertime, the water gets really stagnant and it smells really bad. That's never happened before. That's not natural to our water. We call it sickness because our water's sick. It's just like a human being can get sick. The water is just as alive as you are, and it's hurting. It gets sick.
When we was kids, we used to come down here, play, walk up there, get a handful of water, drink it, no problem. Now, you can't do that. Kids can't even come down here and go swimming anymore. It's that bad. It stinks down here really bad sometimes.
It's our lifeline, and to not have it would just be devastating, very devastating.
Chai. Hit.
The past few years have been looking really bad over here in our county, especially in the Big Valley area. We are experiencing a lot less water. A lot of our tules have died, and our tules are a lot to our tribe. They're a lot to the fish in our lake. They provide shelter for the native fish like the chai, and without the tules, there's nowhere for the chai to hide or anything, so they're more susceptible to get eaten by predators. The Clear Lake hitch or chai, it's a form of subsistence for our community or the whole Pomo people as a whole. We've been consuming it. It's been in our lake basically as long as we have, and we used to, every time it would come into our tributaries, into like Adobe, Kelsey Creek, Manning Creek, and all the other ones, all the people used to gather, and it wasn't just Pomo people, it was everyone, different tribes, and they used to all gather and they would fish, and then after they were finished fishing, they would take it to some of the elders in the tribe, and then the elders would prepare the fish. They would prepare it to dry it, and it would be a year-round form of protein.
Forest.
But I think the most important thing that has changed for us with the climate that has gone on is the forest health. You can see the forest health, the dead trees as we stand here today. I can see looking off into the peaks. That's been some of the biggest stuff that we've seen change here locally. And as that not only affects us with our hunting patterns and other things and dealing with the environment, it also affects the animals. The bears come closer, the mountain lions looking for food. Now they're closer to the communities. And so it's a real challenge as we're moving through for the next 7 generations, how we move forward. I think forest health and climate resiliency is going to be a real focus of my people.
The trees are dying because of drought, and it creates fuel for wildfires in our area. And you can see I'm looking at the hills right now, and you can see it's just spotted everywhere with brown trees.
We have been limited because we can't burn. And burning was part of our way of managing. I went to the state park the other day and looking for little baby acorn trees, and there were none there. We went to where all the acorn trees were standing, and they're all elders. They're old elders, and no babies, and no young men or young women. And so we took a stick and we started to dig around, and we found that the leaves have been piled up and built up year upon year upon year upon year. No fire, no removing that. Acorns cannot even get down to have a root system. And so to manage our lands, we need fire, and we need to do it in a good way.
We've seen a large die-off of the conifers, the ponderosa pine and Doug fir that we have at the Rancheria. The stress of the drought resulted in the trees being susceptible to the western bark beetle. And that has really increased the die-off. We've lost over probably 80% of the conifers on the Rancheria. Climate change has caused the environmental conditions in our summer to really have extreme fire events also. Before, when we had smaller fires, they could manage that and try to protect the villages better. Now with climate change, we have a lot drier landscapes, and then we get wind events in the late summer, which resulted in, as you see, the large-scale burning of a few of the mountains right above the Rancheria. In 2015, the Valley Fire had started just a little over those hills in the Cobb Village area and came over those mountains and into the village of Middletown. Burned over 40,000 acres in the first day. And you can still see the burn scar.
It's become not just a seasonal thing to worry about fires. It's almost all year that we prepare and worry about it or get ready for it. But I know my kids talk about it. They talk about when we get evacuated and when can we go home, or is there going to be school? So it's real.
Yimak Kwan. Hope.
You know, my people lived off the land for a long time, and when the land dies, our people die. All people die when the land dies. And it's getting to a critical state in my lifetime. And I'm hoping that my kids and my grandkids and my great-grandkids, that, you know, they're going to be able to live here on this planet and that it'll still be here.
My point of view is to tell our people, return to your culture, return to your ceremonies, and return to who you really are. And remember, your ancestors are watching you. Your grandmothers and grandfathers are aware of you. Do things to honor them by honoring and taking care of your people and doing the things that they did as an example of how to be a true Native person.
I truly believe the answer to this country's problems is the tribal voice. We've been here for thousands of years. We're resilient. Here in California, we were considered a pest that needed to be eradicated by the first governments that were formed. And still today, I stand in front of you. And our job is to continue on with that. So listening, understanding, and not just talking about it, but bringing actions to place for our people to keep thriving. We will do the right things, we always have. We've done it from the beginning of this country's formation, and we'll continue to do that.
Hene mo